which is your downtime. I see you on Twitter a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's really exciting to me to see you tweet. You're really. I saved one of your tweets. I'm going to try to retrieve it before we finish.
Okay.
But it was like good morning. It was like a State of the Union kind of like you
Oh,
did four
yes.
things
Yes.
that were terrible about our country.
No, it wasn't about our country.
It was
just
yes.
Donald Trump.
Yes, it was just Donald Trump.
Yeah. No, it's actually a list. I actually tweeted a bunch of things because we every day we wake up to the fact that we have a man in the Oval Office who has a serious criminal history, between harassment, sex assault, accusations of rape. His own wife accused him of rape in a court document, under oath. I didn't
know that.
Oh yes, Ivana.
Really?
Yes.
Oh yes, I did know that.
Yes, she
Sorry.
later recanted and said, "Oh no, he merely violated me," which doesn't sound a whole lot better to me. Yes. But at any rate, and that was after the monetary settlement. But he committed campaign finance felonies. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
There's the New York Times showed enormous tax fraud in his family's history. We're dealing with a very unusual situation.
Most unusual.
And I'm still happy to show up on Twitter in the morning, happy warrior, and say, guys, we have to be aware of this.
Right.
We're
And
dealing with a bad situation, unfortunately, and I feel like the people that voted for Trump have been betrayed by him. I think a lot of them had faith in things, had made assumptions because of things we sold them, in the entertainment industry. We told them he's a billionaire. We said he's this incredibly adroit businessman because we were trying to sell a TV show called The Apprentice, And
this really charismatic guy who everyone gets along with.
He's funny. Yeah. He's a buffoon. He's fun, but he's really got this great, business acumen.
Yeah.
No, he's always been full of it, and he never had particularly great business acumen. That was from a show. So I don't blame people for thinking that. We sold him that. We sold him books. We sold him. He's published 8 or 9 books, none of which he wrote. Right. About his incredible business prowess, and it was all a con. So I feel like, believe me, I didn't, on Twitter, I did not want to become political. If you look at my tweets before Trump, they're all incredibly innocuous. Just me amplifying the comedians I love and
mainly lifting other people up.
Yeah. So that's what I'd love to do on Twitter and what I will happily do once Trump is out of office. But it's going to take decades to get. We also got to, deal with what brought him into office. So it's going to be a while.
So that's part of it. That's part of what people may not know about you unless they follow you on Twitter. The other thing is that you got you and Lisa started listening to the Undisclosed podcast on Adnan Syed.
Yes.
Right?
Well, we started with Serial, which was about which became this phenomenon and covered the Adnan Syed case.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, the murder of Heyman Lee.
Right.
And I had heard it, and the whole podcast format was then new and fascinating, and just it's like, it's like radio plays. That's how old I am. That's actually that's way older than I am. I know.
Thank you, because you and I are the same age.
You're right. But that was the what I was the closest thing I could think of, even though I never really listened to radio plays. At any rate, it was a beautifully done piece. And a friend of mine said, there's 3 lawyers who are looking into that case much deeper. And they have a podcast called Undisclosed. Why don't you listen to that? And I said, sure, I'm addicted to these things. I love them.
Yes.
So I started listening to Undisclosed. And the podcast form has this incredible capability, which is it can communicate huge, incredibly in-depth narratives in incredibly compelling ways. And that's very different than what we've been dealing with in terms of media before. You know, you had to read like a really long-term article in a magazine or a book. It had to be a whole book to give you a long-form narrative that was easily accessible. And there's an incredible intimacy to the narratives that a podcast can present. I'm telling you this,
yes.
Even though you make a flipping podcast. This is called Mansplain Corner by Jon Cryer.